for Howie Mandel, who has become so disliked that even Dana White walked off his podcast within 20 seconds of being introduced.
You're an amazing businessman. You are an inspiration. You are a philosopher. The way you do business, the way you conduct your business and your friendships and media is, I'm jealous. But Dana, I can't thank you enough for being here.
And thank you for all the kind words. I appreciate it. I am so retired of doing podcasts. I'm literally done with it. I'm not doing any more podcasts.
Dana just walked out.
However, the podcast that changed Howie's public perception actually occurred when he was a guest on Not Today, Pal, which is a podcast hosted by Jamie Lynn Sigler and Rob Eiler, who are most famous for their roles as brother and sister on The Sopranos, one of the most iconic TV shows of all time. Now, the problem with this episode can be assessed by the very first thing that Rob said. Veteran stand-up comedian who has been performing since 1977. Instead, Rob chose to celebrate Howie for his openness over the years about his obsessive-compulsive disorder. It is very publicly known that Howie is a germaphobe, but that is a massive understatement to how he describes his OCD, a vicious dark circle. His makeup artist must use brand new sponges every day. He won't touch his money unless it's been washed. He avoids handrails like the plague. Handrails are my enemy. I never go near a handrail. Even the reason why he is bald is because he believes it is cleaner than having hair to maintain.
Wow. So he
I'm
cuts
always
his
on the verge
hair.
of death in my mind, he said in 2009. He even wrote a book about his struggle with OCD called Years of This way is because Rob too suffers from extreme OCD, specifically in the form of obsession over germs. Rob made it clear from the beginning that he looked up to Howie. He established common ground with their OCD struggles, and it seemed like Rob wanted to deep dive on this topic.
Do you think germaphobe eventually will get a new name that'll be changed into where they won't be germaphobe anymore?
Like a more
It'll
technical
get-
name?
It'll get woke.
Or there is a technical name.
What is it?
Mysophobia.
Mysophobia.
Yes, but I think eventually it will just be known as Howie.
Rob probably lives your dream life, just to be quite honest.
But
I barely leave my home.
neither do I.
Yeah.
It seems like I'm out there because I'm on television and I'm on podcasts, but I'm a hermit
question or wasn't paying attention, or simply just because he is a comedian. However, you'll notice that his jokes don't land most of
I'm
the
not
time.
that good at
His delivery
sambas,
is
man.
extremely dry and not witty. Combine
I'll
that
mess
with the fact that
around.
he
I'm
has a
not really
brother
that
who
good at them.
discusses OCD,
You know,
you get this
I can
90%
mess
off
around. Try
discussion.
them.
My advice to you,
Or even would something
are
like
you
that
talking about
bother
the
you?
germs? 100%. I wasn't even thinking of the germs. I mean, how exciting are you if you bring a woman to bed and she brings her phone?
I'm talking about
How about a little
the germs they use swabs on phones and they're like
I'm not that good, man. I'm not that. I, I mean, I could kind of fake it, and I'm sure if uh, I had a chance to kind of study with a guy. He was
Or maybe even leaving their phone in the bed when they have
he.
to go to the bathroom.
I think
Rob
it's
thinks this
Bill
is common
Connor.
because cell phones carry 10
He
times
played
more
for Herbie Hancock,
storage
the
space.
Headhunters,
Now, Riley and I don't
and
support
then he
using
started his own
so a
band.
few minutes after we fall
And when he
into our
started his
phones
own
or get a
band,
Lux mattress, we fall into
he
our
hired
apps.
my neighbor.
Helix Sleep makes premium
Um,
mattresses and bedding that are
uh,
customized to fit your needs.
can't remember his name. Can't remember his name. He's Cuban,
The Helix lineup offers 12
and
unique mattresses,
he actually wanted me. He wanted to teach me a bunch of Cuban music to play in his comparsa band.
tall sleepers,
And it just at the time, like
growing bodies, and
I had
enforced sleeping
a
bathroom.
2-year-old and my wife was pregnant with,
Helix knows that.
she,
So they
our
developed a
second.
sleep quiz that matches
So
your unique body type and sleep
and I was doing maintenance, so it took a lot of. I was doing apartment maintenance. If anybody knows about that, like you on call,
based on my results.
I'd rather be on tour than do that. Like it's crazy, but yeah,
A week now, and I love it. Now, usually
I never got an opportunity to.
I tend to toss and turn,
Unfortunately.
go from my right side to my left side on my back, and I try everything, and eventually, in 30 minutes or so, works and is super easy to set up by yourself. And if you're like me, you'll have some fun setting it up as well. Helix has a 100-night sleep trial, so you get more than offer financing
Now you
options.
got me hooked, man. Now you got me
So a
hooked.
great night's sleep is never far away. I love my Helix mattress, and I think you would too. So if you're looking for a new bed, check out Helix Sleep. You can click the link below or go to helixsleep.com/PatrickCC to get 20% off your Helix mattress, plus 2 free pillows. Thanks again to Helix for sponsoring this video. How we finally decided
Yo.
to give Rob some advice, and it was honestly pretty decent, but then Rob shot it down.
Deftones are dope, bro. I like their music. I never got a chance to really get into it. I like their music though. Yo, you know what? I'm gonna just look it up right now. Think.
You should have sandwich
As a matter of fact,
bags on your nightstand. If you're sick.
you said the Deftones. Hold on, hold on.
remember that I don't want my phone in the bed. They don't remember the phone in the bed. You know what I mean?
Digital Bath. Digital Bath by the Deftones.
Since Rob did not take Howie's advice, Howie thought of trying to turn the situation into a joke, suggesting that maybe the girl was on her phone because she was on probation being tracked by a parole officer. But Rob didn't even think he was joking and even talked about how he once dated a girl on probation.
I would not let somebody do it. I just, after like 3 weeks of dating, if they can never do it, I just go, I can't do this anymore. And then I'm gone. Instead of trying to be like, please, I don't want to make it more problem.
Like they could,
If I keep doing that every day for like a week, I'd be pretty nice at it. Like, I'd be pretty decent. Like, not, you know what I mean? I'm pretty decent, you know. I'm gonna set aside some time for that. I gotta get a better mic.
Layer of disconnect
This
that
thing
was
crackly.
subtle but added to the animosity in the room. Rob and Jamie realized throughout the podcast that Howie did not really know anything podcast. The podcast was established because Jamie and Rob had been
If I start getting bound up like that,
they acted as brother and sister on
um,
The Sopranos and literally grew up on the show.
I just start getting tense. So I gotta stop playing.
Throughout their lives.
You know what I mean?
Research how
Then just give it like
moment, but a few minutes
like a
later,
minute.
mentioned that he did not
Let the blood flow, go back to it. You know,
what their
and kind of. I learned that just about, you know, I learned that from like a kung fu. It's like a ninth degree black belt, something, whatever. Kung fu guy. He was a therapist, a physical therapist. But, he realized I was a drummer, and then he analyzed my technique, and he was like, "You are too tense and too tight and too whatever." He said, if he said you have to do exactly what I tell you to do for it was like 10 days. He said, and after these 10 days, this is what you need to do to change your technique. He said, first of all, it's all based on relaxation. In Kung Fu, in any martial arts, a fast hand, a fast muscle is a relaxed muscle. And he just gave me, techniques. Like he changed the way I approach. He literally had to like change how I approach drums. And I've never played like at this level in my life. At this level of relaxation in my life ever. I've never, I, he knew what he was doing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So we've been friends for 26, going on 27. So you're the only one with kids here, huh? Yeah.
And after about the 20-minute mark, the conversation just totally fell off the rails. The hosts are agitated that Howie doesn't know them, and they think he's kind of being Howie doesn't know he should be funny or serious, and it's not like they can tell the difference anyways.
Bro, Afro-Cuban rhythms are like puzzles. They're like, they're like your rhythmic puzzles, And that's the thing about a puzzle is it looks nice. You look at the picture on the puzzle. Oh, it looks nice. But then, okay, just take it apart and put it back together. Now you got to figure all that out. That's Cuban music. It's like it sounds great together. It sounds great, separated and together. It just sounds seamless together. It sounds smooth and fluid and seamless. But if you look into the individual rhythms everybody's playing, it's incredibly complex. It's wild. was a drill that this dude, I can't remember, Manny, ooh, I can't remember Manny's last name. Um, but the Cuban guy I used to live next to, who was a professional percussionist, they were like patterns he would show me. But um, he was just kind of like, it was weird. And this is the second time that somebody told me this. He was like, yo, you kind of, your style is kind of, it seems like you could kind of like fit into that style. Like I've had like this one guy, and it was Puerto Rican dude I knew. Me and him got real cool. He used to call me Alatunje. I don't even know what that means. I'm assuming it's a compliment. But yeah, he used to call me Alatunje. You know, he was like, you play like you would fit into like Latin music. So, you know. You got me dusting off cobwebs, man. Woo.
Connor looks back offset, which seems like he's looking for a way to get out of this conversation and leave. But they're only 30 minutes into the podcast, so it's not time for him to go, and it just keeps getting worse.
I used to actually have a clave pedal right here, but skills are like, uh, it's like use it or lose it. And unfortunately, in Atlanta, there's not a lot of Latin bands, which I'm used to living in, in the Northeast, the tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. Um, so you go to Spanish Harlem, you go 139th and Broad, 117th, between 110 and 118th in Lexington. That's all. Like you walk down the street, dudes is playing in the street, like right there, congas, bongos, like drum sets, like dudes playing. Man, like now, I don't know how. I ain't been there in a while since I moved to Atlanta, but when I left, that's how it was. That's how I remember it. That's how it was. But down here, it's like, I love the South because but it's more American. You know what I mean? For lack of a better term, it's more American. You know, up north, like the tri-state area, it's international. You know what I mean? So,
That's a great moment.
It's a great
And
moment.
you've had a shitty life.
Yeah.
If that
I
in
don't
your
know
mind
Consumed by his disability. Rob comes from the generation where the importance of mental health is more accepted and understood. Younger people who suffer are encouraged to and more likely to speak about their illnesses. It's not clear if Rob was
that's
listening
how I
to
originally
advice
used to
and how he
like.
felt looking for a specific answer, or if
I've
it
been
was
working
just
on
part
that for
of
a
a
while, so
general conversation surrounding the topic. They suffer from a similar condition,
homeboy sparked something in my head,
approach to handling
you
it
know.
could not be the
So
best. This
I
also happened
wish
when you two were too lazy to try and made a
eventually I'm just gonna get a bigger screen so I can just
Too Lazy felt like Rob was
watch
being
it
unsympathetic.
up there, and this is like a weird angle. This is like really weird. So,
But I think it's mostly because it felt like he was trying to make Rob as uncomfortable
matter
as
of fact,
possible. Like anything Rob would say, Howie would ask him kind of questions about it, and then Howie would make some weird jokes that would never land, and then you'd have to explain everything.
And his community agreed with him. The irony of an old man dressing like a teenager only to talk down on the other adults as if they're the ones too immature to be worthy of mutual respect. Jamie and Rob gave their thoughts on the whole situation on a later podcast, which is recorded.
Oh, funny, we got sometimes you have a guest and you don't really,
Oh, you had that.
people notice, but, listen, I don't, maybe we did, maybe we did. No, obviously no names, no names, but can I ask you, there'll be no way they can figure it out.
yo, Jen, you got a good eye. I, I could barely see that, and I'm in the room, and, and I ain't kidding. No cap. Like, okay, I can see it now. I can see it now, but I didn't think y'all would be able to see that. I mean, thank you. This, wow.
And it was just, to me, felt like a clunky conversation because there was just not a lack of respect, but a lack of respect. It was just like, we're here just doing our podcast. We're not claiming to be anything, and I think this person was just coming with a lot of judgment about the two of us. It seemed every time we asked a question, the answer was making fun of us.
In acting, you're supposed to be yes and, like, somebody says something, it's continue in improv, you're yes and.
Yes, and, yeah.
No.
And
It was no, yes and. It was no.
Then Too Lazy made another video detailing their response, which is when Howie realized he was receiving backlash for his behavior. He commented on the video, "This is my favorite episode."
Hey, yo, I'm a failed comedian. No, I'm not a failed comedian. I'm a. The first thing I ever wanted to do was be the next black guy on Saturday Night Live. So, and I was actually really good at impressions and impersonations, you know. So I'm always kind of like keeping abreast of comedy because that's really my first love, comedy. Um, I mean, and music was kind of like some background. Music was kind of like what Dave Chappelle said with weed, background substance. That's what music was for me. Like I grew up around. It was like whatever, no big deal. I wanted to be a comedian, you know. But like I say all that to say like this whole Howie Mandel thing, man. I'm like, bro. But that's what happens when you are isolated from other humans. You don't know how to function. You literally, you don't know how to function. Like, and it's comforting to be in that corner, but it's a prison, and eventually you get to a point where you know it's a prison, but you can't stop, and you got to strip yourself of your ego and say, I need help. And I know all this because I've experienced it. You know what I mean? I suffer from mental health. I don't care. I don't care who knows. I don't care if you don't like me. Look, my issues, the issues I got, you wouldn't have liked me anyway. I learned that early. I learned that when I was like 12 or 13. I was always the weird kid, so it is what it is. But this Howie Mandel stuff, I'm like, man, it's hard, and it's wild because my wife she has a private practice. She's a therapist, so I recognize when people are crashing and burning, you know. I love that ring he has. since you asked about the corner, the top is Coltrane. Uh, my favorite things, Mickey Howard. No, I think it was a debut album. Of course, Roberta Flack, the legend. You know, I got a cajon back there, some maracas. My homeboy from he brought back from Cuba. Uh, Matter of fact, that guitar came from Cuba. Got it off the street.
An apology seems disingenuous because he couldn't acknowledge his pitfalls without cracking a joke and getting mad. Overall, I think the lesson here is not everyone needs to
Kayak. Kayak. Why do people use kayak to compare hundreds of travel sites at once?
I don't get it.
I like to do things myself. Even if I don't get a great deal, I still feel connected to it. What kind of connection would I have with the salmon if I bought it at the supermarket? Ugh. We are connected.
Kayak. Search one and done. Undercarriage smell like an old barn? You mean native whole body deodorants. Native combines the best of nature with the best of science to make a deodorant spray with naturally derived ingredients that fights odor at the source and is clinically proven to keep staying at bay. Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's not just all
Oh.
According to clinical trials, native whole body deodorant is proven to fight odors for 72
Thank you.
hours.
You know what?
Deodorant that actually works than a myth.
I had tons of vinyl, and I lived such a wild life that I don't know what happened to all that stuff. But it's a long story. I'll talk about it one day. But a white guy that I go to church with gave me those albums. He's a drummer, and they wanted me to join their church to play drums, and I joined their church, and it was like they lost their minds. They were like, "Oh snap!" Like I was kind of like, I was just glad to, glad to serve. You know what I mean? I'm like, it's not about me. I was just glad to serve. But yeah. And he was like, "Yo, man," like he kind of knew. He was like, "Man," he walks up, he goes, "You're a jazz drummer." Now that's weird because I don't think of myself as a jazz drummer. I think of myself more as a rock drummer. With kind of I can fake it with jazz, but um, but yeah, so yeah, my foundation is punk. It's punk. The first band I ever was in. No, that was the second band. The first band was a fake Kiss, a black version of Kiss. We was whack, but hey, I was the only one that stuck with it. Second band was my man Dave Izagati, who's like an underground metal legend. Um, he played guitar. Nick Spines was gonna play bass and sing. And then that split up, and then I went the kind of like Jamiroquai direction, and he went into the in the metal direction. But we always linked up, you know. Here's what it is. I'm blind as a bat. I'm blind as a bat. I'm blind as a bat. Y'all blind as a bat. Okay, Deftones. Blind as a bat. Blind as a bat. Blind as a bat, y'all. Them can't see a child. Them can't see a child. Blind as a bat. I can't see the word. On the screen. On the screen. Uh, can't see the words, man. I can't see them on the screen. Yo, I'm sorry. I like Eminem's Houdini. That's who he is. You know, he did what he did like an updated version of like what we know him for. You know, you can't say he can't rap. You know, can't say he can't battle. Can't say he can't make a hit song. You know, you know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't like to bring race into stuff, but I think it's just like, it's just cause cause he white, man. You know what I mean? It just is what it is because he white. You know, but that's not, you know, he gets hate because he's white. Like he's a white guy who like dominates in black music. You know, and black folks are subject to tribalism just like white folks and Asian folks and Latino folks and everybody else. We're all humans. We're all screwed up. We're all screwed up. If we were all gray, there'd be the talls versus the shorts, or the kinky hairs versus the straight hairs, or the brown eyes versus the blue eyes, and the green eyes don't like nobody. Like it's stupid. Like it's like humans are just screwed up, bro. We just all are. We're screwed up. By nature. It's not, well, white people this or black people that. No, we're screwed up. We're all screwed up. That's it. Like, it's loud.
He always got interesting beats. I don't know who their drummer is, but he's good.
I like these guys. They always have interesting beats. I don't know I'm not really familiar with the Deftones, but every time I hear them, I like their stuff. They're like, you know, they're not average, you know, and it's a mix of like your tinges of hip hop. It's like present, you know. And this is old. This is an old song. I don't know if y'all can hear this. Ooh, that's loud. Yeah, so I like that stuff. But let me get back to the regularly scheduled program.
No way. No way.
say one thing that was important to me, and I hope he means it, right? I hope he means it. I hope he's not taking it for granted or saying it because of the position he's in. He said, "I say it's all good." He said,
Oh
"Listen,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
this is
yeah,
what
yeah,
I
yeah,
do."
yeah, yeah.
And
The
I
whole
respect that.
shebang, bang, bang.
That's his mentality, right? It's a very
What's that?
humbling, situation where he goes from living in a $7 million mansion with all the amenities at your disposal to now being
Uh,
in California.
thank you,
Right?
Jen.
So
Thank you.
I hope that is going to be
I lived a
add to
wild
his
life.
success.
I'm actually gonna write a book.
He didn't say
Like I've been like
hey, you say, I got an album coming, it's just going up.
people wanted me to write like
He said,
for years.
I want you to do me
They
a
wanted
favor.
me to write a book
My
about my life.
song is the last song I
I
wrote.
was kind of born. I was born into the right
My house, it got me.
social economic
This was that song. When I first I
house.
spoke to him probably about
The right, it's just the right things happen. You know, my sisters went to like used to go to a private
when he
school.
told me
You know, they're
you might
older than me.
release some more records,
Um,
boom. Okay, I'm a conduit
and
to someone who
my
represents.
mom worked for the airlines
We've had
when the
a
airlines was still at its
I told
peak.
you that trip you said,
So
oh,
everybody was
no context.
getting paid, you know, and we were able to fly all around the world for like free. You know, and you get comp tickets and stuff like that. But my mom worked for the airline, so it was kind of like it was free. But everywhere, Italy. I went to Nairobi, Kenya. I went to I went to Kenya. That was kind of touching because my grandmother was dying, and it was kind of like the. I think I was the unofficial favorite of hers. Um,
I don't care about
so
an interview as much as other people.
we
I care about some of the other tangible things that people
you know, we went to Nairobi.
relationship with
We
someone.
went on a safari in Tsavo National Park. We caught a flat on the lava flows at the base of Mount Kilimanjaro. Um, Africa is wild. It's just like America. You got cities, you got suburbs. Outside the suburbs, you got farms. Outside of farms, we got mountains, and we got deserts, and we got plains. They got the bush. It's the plains, and the grass is like 3.5, 4 feet high, and it's the same color as the lions. So you go out there walking if you want, but guess what? You don't know what you want to walk up on. So they tell you, do not get out the vehicle at all. Don't get out. If you're in the vehicle, they think you're part of the vehicle. They think you're riding a beast or something like that. They're not going to attack you. The moment you get out, they're like, okay, it's fair game. Boom, they get you. It's wild, bro.
Yeah, if you go to the lyrics here, Stun obviously is Birdman, and him saying she'll listen to Carter seemingly hints to him listening to So he signs to Capital instead of Cash Money. Subsequently, why those interviews, and I could cut the parts out where they talk about him coming there, but like, okay. Regardless, um, yeah, these two were inseparable. Um, multiple times I've talked to both. Usually when I talk to Birdman's such a boss, a guy who's made $1 million or his label has grossed $1 million. Um, he always, like a great executive, he didn't want to tell the artist what to do. He's always be like, all right, let me run it by top. You know what I mean? That's a great executive. No matter if you're really the boss, you got to make the artist feel like the boss, right? Because you don't want to pay for them. And yeah, I always thought they were great, amazing. So I don't know what that line came from. That line was kind of like odd to me. I didn't really ask nobody else. Maybe we'll hear more, or maybe it wasn't that serious. I think we've seen young boys say
I love these bulbs. They never get hot.
reasons I do like his
You can turn them on. These been on all night. They never get hot.
when you hear a song, it's a cross section of his mindset at the moment. He ain't saying he ain't never gonna fuck with niggas again. He's just saying what he feels at that moment is right. He this yah on the record, but then he make it off. So again, you have to realize that young boy, he's kind of being very just honest with music. Use it as therapy. Everybody, right? Okay. So anyway, yeah, I don't know too much exactly about what happened there with Birdman. Definitely. Anyway, let's get past that. Let's get into some other stuff.
Oh, thank you.
That's just joining.
Oh, and I'll tell you what. Just so y'all don't, this is, because I've experienced a lot in my life, but Google the Hotel Michigan. It's like Michigan, but instead is an M at the end. In Rome, Italy. It's right down the street from the Coliseum. We stayed there. Um, just, we stayed there. We sort of toured the whole Coliseum. At the time, we couldn't walk in because they were renovating at the time. Now you can go in. It's like this stuff's been fixed. But at the time, they were renovating it. We saw we saw all of the ruins, like like all that stuff. We went on tours and stuff like that. I mean, we didn't have to pay for it. It was the airlines. It was bumping back then. That stuff was free, you know. But Google it. Now I'm gonna tell you, this was so long ago, it doesn't exist. But you know what's gonna happen? Google gonna show it anyway. It's gonna show you where it used to exist. That's how popular the hotel was. So we stayed in that hotel. I'd never heard of a hotel before. I didn't realize it until years later. The memory in my head popped up, and I went to Google. I wonder if the hotel is still there. Because my wife and everybody, she's seen my passport and stuff like that. So, but, and plus, pictures and all that stuff. But, yeah, I lived a really pretty interesting life, and I feel like I got a lot to share with people, you know. I feel like you live life to help other people, you know what I mean?